that you saw live on this program yesterday. Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, well, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing, because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt worked, I mean, she went to St. Anselm College, she worked for WMUR
Ran for
TV.
Congress?
In New Hampshire, she ran for Congress at the age of 25, put out a very good campaign. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives an... And this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job of
Ever felt like the world's spinning too fast and you're just trying to keep up? Sometimes the most extraordinary moments come when you pause, breathe, and let life surprise you. Strap in, because this is where things take a real nosedive. When someone runs out of actual arguments, what's the classic escape route? You guessed it, rambling. And not just your average, let me gather my thoughts kind of rambling. No, this is the Olympic level, never-ending, circle back to nowhere kind. The type that fills every second with meaningless words, hoping the audience forgets the original question. It's verbal smoke and mirrors, a performance designed to exhaust, not enlighten. But let's shift gears for a second, because there's something even more baffling happening on daytime television: the women of The View. Now, if there's ever been a group that seems entirely out of sync with everyday Americans, it's them. Watching them talk about real-world issues is like watching actors in a play, except the script is written in an elite bubble far removed from what regular people actually experience.
Rockstar.
Meantime, new rock star launched overnight. Now, I know she's been around for some time, but how's this? She's just 27, but she's fantastic. This is the brand new press secretary representing the president. Now, remember old Karoline Jean-Pierre just lying to people about how amazing Biden was, deep fakes. The one before that, Jen Psaki, circle around just telling lies. Well, they've been replaced with a lady called Karoline Leavitt. I repeat, you can see she's a lady of faith. She's a lady who knows how to fire guns recreationally, and she knows how to drop a few bombs verbally on a press pack that, remember, covered up for Biden and have told the worst possible lies about incoming future Hitler Trump. Have a look at her taking control of a room of people who normally wouldn't even roll their eyes.
They sit there, nodding along to their own carefully curated perspectives, convinced they're delivering hard-hitting truths. But to who exactly? It's like an echo chamber on steroids, reinforcing the same narratives over and over again while blocking out anything that doesn't fit their agenda. Honestly, at this point, they might want to diversify their news sources beyond their little social circles, because it's getting embarrassing. The detachment is so obvious, it's painful. And leading this charge? The one and only Whoopi Goldberg. For years, she's been the queen bee of The View, holding court while setting the tone for debates. Or, let's be real, shutting them down before they can even begin. She's been at the center of the show's most controversial moments, steering conversations with a mix of sharp wit, frustration, and, let's be honest, a tendency to dismiss anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. But has her reign finally run its course?
While I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there's misinformation about this White House.
Boom. She's got more.
I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country.
Bam! It's on in the middle of the night.
Because, from the looks of things, the cracks in the throne are starting to show. She's been ruling the view like an empress, commanding the conversation, deciding who gets to speak, and silencing guests mid-sentence if they dare step out of line. Her takes, delivered with the authority of someone who believes her word is law, make it clear it's not a panel, it's her court, and everyone else is just there to nod along or risk being cut off. But here's the twist. There was one moment that completely shattered the illusion of her untouchable reign. And let's be real, it wasn't just awkward, it was downright humiliating. It all started like any other day on The View. The usual smug laughter, exaggerated eye rolls, and a chorus of synchronized head nods, perfectly choreographed to match their left-leaning script. The routine was as predictable as ever, a well-rehearsed echo chamber where the hosts basked in their own self-congratulatory chatter. But then something happened. Karoline Leavitt walked onto that stage, and suddenly, the entire dynamic flipped on its head. The energy in the room shifted.
Attacking a woman for her looks or age isn't very progressive. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. Kosha, particularly that last clip that we played, it was so condescending. The way that she was scolding her as if she was a schoolgirl, suggesting she needed to do her homework. I find it so hypocritical when these so-called, caring, progressive voices just turn so nasty like that.
Yes, and as you mentioned, with conservative women, there's a long list of that, both of Trump's previous press secretaries, females, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Kayleigh McEnany, other figures like his campaign manager the first time, Kellyanne Conway, Sarah Palin very famously had to bear the brunt of a lot of this. So people are used to that. I think in their bubble of the audience that The View speaks to, that's probably kind of what the group think is. So one defense, I guess, is that she was speaking to her audience, but you take it outside of that bubble the way you are right now, and we all can see what it is. It was also interesting, too, because she was conflating two.
For the first time in what felt like forever, Whoopi wasn't in control. Sitting high on her throne, she assumed she had the upper hand, like always. She locked onto Karoline, leaned in, and threw what she believed to be a knockout punch. With all the confidence in the world, she declared, "Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have this job." The second those words left her mouth, the studio went dead silent. The air got heavy, thick with tension. It wasn't just an awkward pause. It was the kind of silence that makes people shift in their seats. Even Joy Behar, who practically lives to roast conservatives, suddenly looked uneasy. She fidgeted, shifting in her chair like she could already tell this wasn't going to end well.
My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
All right. What'd she say?
She basically said that they were going to give
God,
unqualified
how boring.
unqualified
Can they get
people
somebody there
jobs.
not so
Behind
tedious?
the Table podcast needs to apply for White House credentials.
Oh, they'd love having Joy in that room.
Joy can
I got a question.
So wait a second. So in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What? I don't...
And Whoopi? Oh, she was smug as ever, sitting there soaking in the moment, convinced she had just delivered the ultimate mic drop. The smirk, the self-satisfied pause. She really thought she had just ended the discussion right then and there. Spoiler alert, she hadn't. Because what came next was predictable, tired, and downright frustrating. You've heard it all before, the same patronizing, holier-than-thou tone she always slips into when she thinks she's winning. That slow, deliberate drawl, dripping with, "I'm right, you're wrong," arrogance. It wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration of dominance. She was gearing up for another long-winded monologue, the kind that doesn't invite conversation, just submission. The expectation was clear.
Each side. And now when we've gone to this place where you only hear this, see, we have to tell you both sides. That's why Alyssa's here, that's why Anna's here, because we don't all think the same way. And it's like you all don't think the same way, so you want to hear what other people say. But when they're lying, we can't have it. We can't allow on this show to have things said that we know for a fact are not true. That's what it used to be. That's what it needs to go back to be, and that's where y'all come in. It's okay to feel how you feel, but demand the truth. Demand folks fact check what they're telling you, because what they're telling you is important.
Karoline would fold. She'd either backpedal, scramble for a comeback, or, best case scenario, trip over her own words. That was the plan. But then, the moment everything changed, Karoline didn't flinch, didn't fumble, didn't rush to defend herself or try to outshout Whoopi. No nervous laughter, no frantic retorts. She did something way more powerful. She smiled. And not just any smile, a slow, knowing smirk. The kind that speaks volumes without a single word. The kind that says, "You just messed up." The kind of expression that lets everyone in the room know that someone's confidence just outpaced their common sense. And that was it. That was the moment the entire power dynamic flipped.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because voters are going to re-elect President Trump back to the White House very soon because voters see these trials that are being brought forward against President Trump for what they are. They are sham show trials. They are election interference in an attempt to imprison President Trump. And the irony in all of this is that Joe Biden and the Democrats and these ladies on The View constantly say President Trump is the alleged threat to democracy, when in fact they themselves are wishfully thinking that President Trump will be imprisoned when he has not been convicted of any crimes. That is the real threat to democracy. Voters see that, and that's why President Trump continues his dominance in the polls, not just with Republicans and independents, but he's also picking up historic gains with Democrat constituencies such as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and union workers.
Well, the room felt it. The audience felt it. Even Whoopi, who had been so sure she was in control, started shifting in her seat. Because this wasn't going according to script anymore. Then, Karoline delivered the real knockout punch. No emotion, no theatrics, no weak, easily dismissed arguments. Instead, she brought out the one thing that cuts through the noise like a knife: cold, hard facts. Government spending reports, economic data, the kind of indisputable receipts that don't bend to opinions, feelings, or whatever narrative is being pushed that day. There was no wiggling out of this one, no clever way to deflect. And that's when Whoopi's smug confidence started to crack. It wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a demolition. Whoopi had walked straight into a trap.
Add one last thing. What was interesting to me is Dan Rather weighed in on X, and he said, he compared our time now to the Nixon era, which was a little scary for me. But he said, enough with both sides-ism. When one side lies intentionally and repeatedly, they are no longer entitled to the benefit of the doubt.
And we should keep in mind, too, that the people that need to hear this are the people who are running the networks that are okaying this. Because this idea, it's like they say to you now, you can only work within this perimeter. But if the facts are not clear to people, that was what a journalist was there to do, to say, in fact, this is what went on and this is how we checked. Now, we've been given doubts that people don't know how to do this. The media has pretty much always been.
And now there was no way out. Karoline didn't just push back, she dismantled the entire narrative piece by piece, with the precision of someone who had been waiting for this moment. With laser focus, she laid out exactly how taxpayer money was being funneled into bizarre, woke-driven agendas. Sesame Street pushing American activism on a global scale? That was just the tip of the iceberg. She connected the dots like a surgeon dissecting a problem, exposing how wokeness had mutated from a social movement into a full-blown political weapon, one designed to silence, shame, and destroy anyone who dared to step out of line. She didn't raise her voice.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because Women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was...
She didn't get emotional. She simply laid out the facts, one after another, each one landing like a precision strike. And Whoopi? Oh, she wasn't laughing anymore. The smug confidence was gone. The usual condescending tone was nowhere to be found. For the first time in a long, long time, Whoopi Goldberg was on the defensive. And she did not like it. The woman who had spent decades steamrolling over guests, shutting down opposing views with snark and arrogance, was now the one scrambling for words. Her go-to tactics, mockery, dismissiveness, eye rolls, none of them were working. The second Karoline refused to back down, the entire power dynamic flipped on its head. And Whoopi, trapped, exposed, speechless. No snarky comeback, no clever deflection, just pure, agonizing silence. You could feel the tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud about to burst. Desperate to save face, Joy Behar swooped in with a weak joke, hoping to break the awkwardness and reset the mood. But it was too late. The damage was already done. Whoopi...
Well, you know, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on. Right. That's what you hear. Yeah. When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say, they talk at you, not to you. And that's what she was doing. And she was doing it, and it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
Goldberg, the undisputed queen of The View, had just been dismantled on live television. And millions had witnessed it happen in real time. She wasn't just challenged, she was outmatched, outmaneuvered, and out of options. But if you think that was a bad day for Whoopi, just wait. Because the internet? Oh, the internet had a field day with this one. Reaction videos flooded in within hours. Memes exploded across every platform, turning Whoopi's stunned silence into an instant viral moment. Commentators couldn't get enough. YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. You name it, the clip was everywhere, replayed and dissected from every possible angle. Some called it the moment The View finally got a taste of its own medicine.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
Others just enjoyed the spectacle of seeing a media giant caught off guard with no way to spin the narrative. But here's the real kicker. This wasn't Whoopi's first rodeo with controversy. Oh no, we're talking about a woman whose past is littered with scandals, from tone-deaf comments about the Holocaust to bizarre, head-scratching defenses of problematic figures. Whoopi has had her fair share of PR nightmares. But this time was different. Because now, The View wasn't just facing backlash from the public, they were being dragged into a tidal wave of lawsuits. Colleagues, one after another, defamation cases started piling up, each one more devastating than the last. What started as heated debates on live TV had now turned into a legal minefield. And let's talk about the real cost of Whoopi's unchecked commentary. Because ABC? They were bleeding money. This wasn't some petty internet spat that would fade away in a news cycle. This was millions of dollars in legal battles, settlements, and reputation damage, all thanks to Whoopi's reckless mouth. And the worst part? She had no one to blame but herself. Let's rewind for a second. Carrie Underwood, a country music powerhouse, made the so-called mistake of performing at Trump's second inauguration. What happened next? The View.
I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good. It was so good. In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you know who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the
Who went into full attack mode. They mocked her, ripped apart her performance, accused her of aligning with hate. The usual playbook: smear, mock, cancel. But this time, they picked the wrong target. They wanted to cancel her, but instead, they lit the match that would set their own house on fire. Because Carrie Underwood wasn't about to roll over and take it. Instead of letting Whoopi and The View bulldoze her reputation, she fought back hard. She slapped them with a $1 billion defamation lawsuit. And when the case hit the courtroom, things got explosive. Turns out, ABC hadn't just allowed the smear campaign to happen, they had orchestrated it. And not because they had some moral stand against her performance, but because controversy sells. They needed a villain to boost ratings, and Carrie was just another pawn in their manufactured outrage machine. But this time, it backfired, big time. Yeah, you heard that right. This wasn't just reckless gossip, it was a calculated hit job. And when the truth came out, ABC had no choice but to settle. But at what cost? The whispers began. Is The View even worth the trouble anymore?
Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because
the network was hemorrhaging money, and its reputation was circling the drain. And just when they thought the storm had passed, boom. Another lawsuit. This time, it was Elon Musk. Whoopi and the panel had pushed outrageous, false claims about Twitter under his ownership. And Musk? He wasn't about to let it slide. He hit them with yet another defamation lawsuit, throwing The View into full...
We can't allow on this show to have things said that we know for a fact are not true.
Blown crisis mode. Advertisers started pulling out, ratings plummeted, and the cracks in The View's carefully controlled empire were splitting wide open. Fast forward to today, and the fallout is undeniable. Whoopi's reign. After that humiliating showdown with Karoline Leavitt, there was no coming back. And let's be real, it wasn't some graceful farewell. ABC...
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
She hit them with yet another defamation lawsuit, throwing The View into full-blown crisis mode. Advertisers started pulling out, ratings plummeted, and the cracks in The View's carefully controlled empire were splitting wide open. Fast forward to today, and the fallout is undeniable. Whoopi's reign. After that humiliating showdown with Karoline Leavitt, there was no coming back. And let's be real, it wasn't some graceful farewell. ABC tried to spin it as a temporary break, but everyone knew the truth. She was fired. The damage was too deep, the lawsuits too costly, and the network was desperate for damage control. But with Whoopi gone, a bigger question loomed over The View. Can it even survive? Do they double down and bring in another polarizing figure to keep up the drama? Or is this finally the moment they're forced to change course? Could this be the beginning of the end for The View? Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because this is just the beginning.